The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Forge Fitness and Nutrition LLC, the podcast hosts, owners, employees, contractors, partners, or affiliates. This presentation may include the use of explicit language. Listener or viewer discretion is advised. Hello and welcome to the Forge Fitness, Nutrition, and Habit podcast. I am your host, Michael S. Parker, and today we're going to discuss a commonly ignored topic in the fitness industry, which is recovering from injury and how to fix your mindset around the inevitability of accidents and plateaus and regressions and pain and the mentality that you're going to need to manage your recovery. Today, I am joined by the incredible Tate Odell, a longtime veteran of the wellness and recovery world and a great friend. Tate holds a Master of Science in Fitness and Wellness Leadership, a bachelor's degree in exercise science, is a kinesiologist, and he is a certified strength and conditioning specialist. Tate has been part of the Forge team for over 4 years. Tate, I am looking forward to this conversation and learning more from you on how to rebuild our body and our belief in it, especially during or after an injury. Share with the audience a little bit more about yourself.
First of all, thanks for having me. And second of all, I feel like you just gassed me up. Like I'm amped to go now. I'm ready. So good intro. My educational background is a little bit interesting because before I finished my master's degree in fitness and wellness leadership, I started a master's athletic training program with no intention whatsoever to be an athletic trainer. And the reason I did that was because I felt there was a gap in the education for personal trainers around injury recovery, injury prevention, just generally a gap in anatomical knowledge required, or that would be beneficial to be a strong strength coach or personal trainer or a fitness coach. And I wanted that education. So I actually did 33 credits of a master's athletic training program before essentially transferring to a fitness and wellness leadership program. And then personally, the beginning of my life, I had no injuries, literally zero from ages 1 to 17, nothing. I never even sprained an ankle. I didn't even know what that felt like. And then when I was a senior in high school, I tore my ACL. That kind of kicked me on a path of repetitive injury, recovery, surgery. And I myself have had to overcome a lot of injuries. And I know what it can feel like and how isolating it can be to come back from them, especially surgeries and kind of the lens I look through when I'm coaching my clients. Personally,
I know that you've had a significant amount of injuries, not only your knee, but your hip, and there's other things, but you have a tendency to be very proactive in your mindset around it, as far as I could tell. And I've known you for over 4.5 years. That is something that I've really been interested in regarding your mindset and the way that you coach, because I know that you do have a no nonsense approach, not a drill sergeant approach. That's not at all. You don't have a very large level of patience for people wanting to give up. You really do give it to people. And what I mean by that is you say, listen, you can do this. You should do this. You need to do this. And you're so good at laying out roadmaps, especially with your clients. You have a very distinct style. And I want to kind of dive into that mindset that you fostered, because at least as long as I've known you, you've always had to manage something crazy going on in your life. But what do you think is going on with the fitness industry as it relates to recovery and injury? Tell us a little bit more about that.
You can't prevent injuries unless you know them. You can't stop something from happening unless you see it coming. Mm-hmm. You can't prescribe the right exercise if you don't understand the arthrokinematics of that joint or how that exercise affects a joint down the chain. And there is a gap missing in the fitness industry and injury prevention, and it's right in front of your face. It's the most important thing. It's really important for client retention. If your client gets hurt, they're gone. A lot of times they're gone. It can be just enough of an excuse to give up. You know, I hurt my shoulder, I hurt my knee, and you're like, oh, fuck these other 3 limbs. Like, I'll let them go too. But if you can stop them from happening and feel good, there's just so much things that happen downstream from that are beneficial. Your attitude improves, your general outlook improves, your general disposition. You just feel better when you're not in pain and when you're not uncomfortable.
I want to go back to a comment that you just made regarding retention of clients and their injuries. And this is something that I think you and I both find frustrating in the way that the general person thinks about fitness. And we can even put this into nutrition, but let's talk about the the human movement science aspect of this. If and when someone gets injured, doesn't it seem counterintuitive to you that that's when they leave you?
Yes. It's extremely frustrating. It's like, okay, this is when I am most valuable to you.
Exactly. But that's when they bail. And you know why? Because people are looking for a fucking excuse to leave. Every client is on the edge of a knife. There's at any moment you can lose them because everybody's ready to give up because it's so easy. It's very, very easy to give up. And the moment they get an injury, yes, I have the perfect excuse.
But you can't get in shape. You can't become healthy. You can't manage your health. You can't lose body fat. You can't improve performance. You can't play your sport if you're hurt. But you're 100% right. If you get hurt, you now don't have to pursue your fitness. You have an excuse. And you're absolutely right. You're like, I can let this go now. Like, phew, like now I don't have to go to the gym 4 days a week. Now I don't have to do this to manage my health anymore because, you know, what did I do? I stepped off the curb. I rolled my ankle, like, you know, or fractured my foot. Like, can't ride the bike now. You know, I couldn't row. You know, you're right. You're 100% right. And it's just enough for people to allow themselves to not take care of themselves.
I call it the reasonable reason fallacy. The reasonable reason fallacy. And what that is when somebody is able to either manufacture or leverage an opportunity in their life to reasonably abdicate their responsibility. I'd say this comes in three forms. First is family or work. When they have a family member, like say, for example, their mom, and they're like 46 and their mom's like 80. And they're like, oh, well, I can't work out anymore. My mom's sick. This is a common thing. And anything in that vein, right? Family, friends, some kind of life event that is normal, that you're going to have to deal with. Everybody, every single fucking person on the planet will have to deal with. But they take that moment. They're like, oh, yes, the relief, like you just said. That's the first one. The second one is injury. The moment they're injured, they're like, as you said, whew, I don't have to do this anymore. I can bail. And the third is mental health. Man, when I hear that, it's like nails on a chalkboard. I just can't work out because of my mental health. That's why you should be working out. The best thing you could possibly do for yourself is get off your medications, provided your physician agrees. Disclaimer. The best thing that you can do for yourself is move your body and exercise when you have mental health problems. Everybody has mental problems. Everybody has an emotional event that they're contending with. You aren't unique. You're not special. You have to start taking responsibility. So injuries, no excuse. Your mom's sick. Your mental health is a problem. Toughen up, baby. That's what it takes if you want to be well and fit. That's what it takes if you want those things, seriously want those things.
I do agree. It helps to have somebody equip you with the nuance of, okay, now I have to maintain this workout routine that I've been doing, which includes, you know, going to the gym 5 days a week and working out for an hour. If your mom gets sick and your mom's in the hospital, you can change your plan. You can adjust it. You don't need to jump ship. And it's the nuance between moving and working out. Okay, maybe now you're not working out 5 days a week in the gym. Maybe you're in the hospital and you're committing to walking 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at the night. Maybe you go to the gym 3 days a week, but you can adjust. And having somebody, a coach like you or I, to help you do that and make a reasonable change to continue to manage your health is super powerful. And I think what also gets lost is the idea of just sustaining versus progress. You're like, okay, this thing happened, but I have to continue to progress towards my goal and get stronger and stronger and stronger. Like, guess what? Like, there is going to be a point where nothing's wrong in your life and you're going to be regressing no matter what you do. And it's a mental shift. And it's easy to have something come up or percolate up in your life and throw your hands up and be like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I can't commit to it. You're right. You cannot commit to that anymore. But what can you commit to? What is more reasonable for this change in context in your life? Yeah. And it's an odd mental phenomenon, but it exists for sure.
Well, certainly does. I want to tell a quick story. I have probably a dozen or two of these kinds of stories, but there's one in particular that sticks out to me because it's pretty severe. I have a client. She's been with me for many, many, many years. She's absolutely darling. She's in her 50s and she was playing pickleball. She's she'll knows exactly who I'm talking about when she hears this. And she decided that it would be a good idea to tear her entire Achilles tendon out. I want to give her a tremendous amount of praise because when she detached her Achilles tendon, her message to me was the details. what had happened. She's playing pickleball. And the next sentence was, now what do we do? How do we get past this? And I felt that that was such a powerful mindset. And we developed a protocol that supported the other 3 limbs, as you had mentioned earlier. She never gave up. She never quit. She had some mindset struggles like anybody in that situation. And she overcame every single one of them just with a broadsword. She just cut those things down. And to this day, she's consistently progressing off of what you would call a significant regression. She was in a boot and a scooter for months, and she has recovered significantly. And in fact, this summer, her and I were just joking, I think it was last week or the week before, about how this is going to be her hot girl summer. She's in her 50s and she's ready to go because she had made the decision up here. It was in her brain. Everything was in her mindset and her body followed her mind. Yes, her body betrayed her as she was diving for this ball. And the story, the way she tells it is actually kind of cute, but that there is a powerful story to me because she had every opportunity to throw in the towel and say, whew, I don't have to worry about this anymore. I don't have to stick to anything. That's not what she did. But coming back to this, I want to shift gears here real fast. And I want to talk about the progressions that we've seen in the fitness industry, or at least the wellness industry, for many, many years, up until probably, I don't know, maybe we could say 10 or 15. Recovery, rest, functional movement systems, they were all completely overlooked in the fitness conversation. You didn't hear any trainers and gyms or even physical therapists just were, at that point, they were just photocopying stuff and saying, here you go. This is what everybody does for like Achilles tear or meniscus tear. Here you go. Here's a photocopy. And don't worry that you can't read it and it's slanted, but this is medical care in America.
One thing I want to say really quickly before we move on to this is, because I do want to be sympathetic to people that are going through crises, is that you do need to go through your stages of grief before go back to your exercise program. But the key is lick your wounds, but just don't lick them forever. Anyhow, I wanted to say that out loud before I forgot that thought. And in terms of like the mobility and the recovery and all that stuff, I'm not sure if I could point to anything specifically that made the industry start to shift that way. One thought is maybe, the physical therapy industry started to realize that their care was kind of dog shit when insurance is involved, or at least dog shit compared to what a skilled physical therapist is capable of without the oversight. I think some physical therapists went into the fitness field and started to teach these tools and use these tools with personal trainers. And it's kind of snowballed from there. And it is a great thing. But I do want to say mobility, foam rolling, stretching doesn't help you get out of the chair. You can't get out of your chair if you're not strong. So even though I would say that all these things are super helpful and they do keep pain away, I still prioritize strength over mobility, flexibility, soft tissue work, because at the end of the day, as you age, you don't have to be flexible to get out of a chair. You have to be strong enough to get out of the chair. And I do think a lot of times there's confusion in the general population around people just love to categorize it, like strength, mobility, this, that, the other, prescribe for this, boom, 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 boom. Like the best thing for joint health is strength. That's the best thing. Stabilize the joint. You're moving it. You're lubricating it. You're bringing blood to the area. That's awesome. It's like all really good things. And I think I put a more positive spin on this is the introduction of mobility and functional training and things like that is a nice gateway to that as well. There's a big industry around it too, right? There's a lot of cheap products that you can make and sell for a lot of money that are really helpful. And yeah, it really is a positive thing because there's so many subsets of fitness, and one of them can be like physique training.
Right.
And what gets lost is, again, like the injury prevention. You're not going to compete in your bikini contest if you got biceps tendonitis. Like, you're not. Good luck building up the strength and definition in your chest and your buys and shoulders with your biceps tendon all flared up. It's not going to happen. It comes into play over and over and over. I think maybe people are starting to realize that, and having a totally toned physique 100% of the time with high definition, sustainable always? No. It's something you train for a moment and you keep it for a week or two when you're dehydrated. And would it be better just to take care of myself and shift more towards like, how do I take care of my body? How do I take care of my body composition?
That's a good one, because we were talking about sustainability, and that's the general theme. Actually, our practice at Forge is designed specifically around sustainability, longevity of client health, things of that nature. But I just wanted to mention something that you had talked about, the crossover from physical therapists into the fitness world. I think Gray Cook did a good job of that with functional movement systems. He was kind of like, my estimation was a reasonable pioneer on that. You said something that I found interesting is that you can have all the flexibility or mobility in the world, but if you don't have the strength to get out of a chair, then you're going to have a problem. And this is, I think, where especially trainers in the mainstream fitness get confused. You get over hyper focused on categorization. Appreciate that you have a specialization, but human beings require a lot more nuance than that. You have to have a bit of a broader scope. You can specialize, but you should have a broad scope. And I know that Gray Cook, one of his famous lines is that you never want to layer strength over dysfunctional movement patterns. But in the other hand, if you don't have strength, then those functional movement patterns can't exist. So it's about creating the two together. You have to work in tandem. You can't just isolate. And that's a word that we use too often in the fitness industry. I want to isolate this and I want to focus on that. And spot reduction is, of course, a myth, but there's a bit of the clinical side that is starting to overlap. And I think the National Academy of Sports Medicine attempted to do that originally in the early 2000s. And to whatever degree they were successful, there was definitely a crossover and there was a vernacular change. The way that trainers started to speak sounded a lot more clinical than it was in, say, the 80s. I want to bring it back now to the injuries and the mindset and some of the practical applications, how we can safely rebuild without rushing it, to your point, which was that you have to go through the grieving process. Everybody has to take the time to do that. You just take as little time as possible and then get your ass back to it. So after rehab ends, let's just say that they go through a clinical process of rehab. What should somebody do next?
They should hire me or you.
Fair enough.
Or they should keep going to physical therapy and start paying cash for it. That's it. Those are your two options. You need to keep working with somebody, because unless you think you're better to your own standards and you're okay with that, then sure, you could possibly stop. Big proponent of free will, like do whatever the fuck you want. If you want to feel the best, hire somebody, because you're only as good, again, as either your cash or as far as insurance is covering. And they're only covering until you're functional. Like, can you do your activities of David lately? Can you go up and down the stairs? You fill out your whole questionnaire at the beginning. Why do you fill out that questionnaire? Like, can you stand for 20 minutes? Can you walk for a mile? Can you, whatever, bend over and pick up a 10-pound bag? All this boring ass shit. When you really want to get back to, like, can I run and cut and jump for an hour straight? The answer is going to be, if you're going with insurance and your physical therapy is done, is no, 100%. So you need somebody to help bring you back as close to the levels you were at before. And the insurance isn't going to cover that. And you could argue that they shouldn't either. So it's almost like a privilege to get that level. But if that's where you want to get, you need to hire somebody and continue to work. And all physical therapy is strength. It's regress strength work. You and I were progressing our exercises by going from 50 pounds to 60 pounds, from a kneeling push-up to a full push-up. Your progressions in physical therapy might be going from 25% of your body weight to 50% of your body weight, or going from assisted through gravity to gravity. So the progressions are all the same. You're still just stacking strength on the level that you were at prior. You're just at a different stage now. You're at the bottom of the mountain with physical therapy. Maybe you had a knee injury and you couldn't even do a straight leg raise. And now you can do a straight leg raise against gravity. And then when you're leaving PT, and next thing you know, you're like, okay, like, is my VMO strong enough to go for a run? Because now I can do a straight leg raise against gravity. Like, fuck no, it's definitely not even close. And you're just going to be putting a lot of extra stress on the articular tissues of your joint. And that's what's going to hold it together, not your strength. And so you need to hire somebody to continue to progress you up that mountain. And it would be beneficial to think of your physical therapy as strength training. You're doing strength and mobility. And you need to hire another strength trainer afterwards to continue on, to get back to where you want to be.
I recognize that this was an issue. The gap between physical therapy and getting back to where you were, the post-rehabilitation aspect of an injury outside of the physical therapy. And that's why I got a post-rehab specialization. I saw a huge gap. I'm like, how do you bridge that between the moment somebody has some kind of significant injury that requires a doctor of physical therapy, and then where do they go from there? Either they go off on their own, which some people are successful, most are not, or their only option.
Get away with it. That's the problem. You're 18.
Well, that's
you might
true.
Get away with it.
Age can be a factor here, but there was an issue though that I saw. This was probably about 15 years ago. After somebody left physical therapy, they had no options other than a gym trainer. And that may not necessarily always be the right path. And don't get me wrong, there are some phenomenal trainers in commercial gyms. They're usually not at commercial gyms though. You want to go for independent contractors who are either renting or they're typically higher educated and they're a little bit different than a gym trainer. They're usually older. Maybe somebody online, for example, Forge is a great example of that, where you have kinesiologists and physiologists. And I think combined, I'm 25 years experience next year. I think you're coming up to 16?
15, yeah.
15, 16. Okay. So then, you had Millie, you had Cameron, you had Sammy. Either way, I'm not trying to disparage commercial gym personal training in this episode. I'll do that later.
Well,
but
yeah, they just don't have the touch points, right? We both worked in gyms. It's like you're paying me for the hour. Once this hour's over, like I'm not doing more work unpaid. Like you're on your own the next 3 days. So it's a touch point issue. And where online is superior is, okay, now you have your workouts and then you have your prehab routine that you do 3 days a week. And you have this like whole set of exercises that you follow and somebody to support you through it versus, and to your point, you can have the best trainer in the world, but if you're only seeing them twice a week and that's all you're getting from them, you're not getting enough help. You're not getting enough consistent help throughout the week to actually get stronger, better, all the things we just discussed. And like that, if you have somebody that can do both, probably a really good position, but that's going to be costly as well.
It seems to me that one of the biggest challenges that people have is social media's influence on the value of fitness or the value of a professional. It's been commoditized to the degree where people don't see that investment is worthwhile because it's so cheap everywhere else, but they don't understand that there's no specificity around it, that there's nothing.
Why would I hire you when I can just get a plan for free?
That's right. That's right. They don't understand. I think that the best analogy that I can come up with is that if you have a legal problem, you hire a lawyer.
Set yourself in court, but good fucking luck.
Yeah, you hire a lawyer. You don't just go in to the judge and say
That's a good example.
Whatever you're going to say. There's a protocol. This is the thing about specificity that I want everybody who's listening or watching to understand, is that it's the said principle, a specific adaptation to an imposed demand. You have to give your body a very specific set of stressors, which are predictable for us. Physiologists, kinesiologists, exercise scientists, they understand that if you apply stress in a very specific way, you will get a very predictable outcome. So when you're following a social media influencer who's 22 years old, who's just doing those mini bands on her ankles, and she's doing crab walks and all kinds of like lateral lunges, and she's got this giant ass, which is clearly surgically enhanced. Plus she's also 22 years old, and she's a professional exerciser because she's endorsed. She's paid to exercise all day long, unlike you. There's a misconception about what the value of a fitness professional is. There's a difference between an influencer who is monetized and a professional, educated, experienced coach. There's a huge difference. Now, let's say that somebody just left physical therapy. Let's talk about some of the pitfalls real quick, and then let's get into some solutions. In your experience, some of the common mistakes that people make after they get cleared to exercise again.
I think the pain pitfall. I think there's a huge gap in patient education of physical therapy. And that's a knock on the physical therapy industry. Like I'll say that's a knock on it. That's been my experience. And when I see clients post PT, I experience it again, or they're just not paying attention. But it's happening so often that I think there's a gap there. And by what pain pitfall, what I mean is understanding your pain and what the difference is between pain and harm. And my clients will know exactly what I'm about to say. And that is, just because you're in pain does not mean you're causing harm. And when you're in physical therapy, you have an emotional support system, you have therapeutic modalities, you have massage, you got cupping, you got dry needling. You have everything at your disposal to make you feel good and manage that pain. And as you should, it's good. It's helpful to work through your injury. But once you leave, that's gone. And if you've had a major injury or surgery, you're going to be uncomfortable. And it brings up a lot of emotions. You're like, oh, I have this feeling that's similar to what I had before my injury. Like, did I do it again? Or like, I'm worried I'm going to hurt it, or worried to make it worse. So understanding the distinction between pain, discomfort, and harm, super important. And the only way to work through pain is to move your joints and work through the discomfort. And you need to, as a patient or as a client, you need to have the understanding of and skills to desensitize and work through that. And the system I use is good pain is pain from 1, I'll say either 1 to a 3, 1 to a 4, sometimes 2. It depends on what my estimation of this person's pain tolerance is. So, full disclosure, if I think you're a bitch, your pain's a 4. If I think you tolerate too much pain and you're hard-headed, your pain scale is a 1. Like, don't tolerate any pain because I know you're hard-headed and you'll push through anything. And both people exist and one's not better than the other. They're both not good. And if so, measure your pain discomfort. If it gets over a 4, back it down, whatever you're doing. If it's below a 4 and there's not swelling, it doesn't hurt more during your workout, or it doesn't hurt more the following day, that is good pain. Bad pain is hot to the touch, swelling, pain over a 1 or 4, whatever your number is. So anything that gets worse or higher than the designated number. And just having a distinction between both is super important because you need to desensitize the area. You also need to bring blood to the area. You need to stimulate the synovial membrane to release synovial fluid, to bring nutrients, to recover, generate tissue. And you need to be able to move to emotionally and mentally feel better and that you're actually doing something for yourself. And you can't move if you're always just like, oh, this hurts, I have to stop. And to go back to what I said, it's a totally valid feeling. Like you might have had a really traumatic injury. Like I've had a traumatic injury and it bring up a lot of emotions. And you're like, holy shit, I do not want to do that again. Like I got poked in the eye in high school. I guess I did get hurt. And I think I got poked again in the eye, like same eye a year later, and I freaked out. Why did I freak out? Because, dude, I almost went blind in that eye, and it was like, some stupid play at practice, and I flipped out. So being equipped to work through the pain pitfall is super important and really helpful to have somebody help you understand that and walk with you through that path, through that process, journey, whatever you want to call it. And it can suck sometimes. And it's nuanced. Sometimes one thing will cause pain and inflammation, and sometimes it'll do the exact same thing. So what are the other factors? Sleep. I could go on all inflammatory foods. I'm going on a rant here, but I'm going to keep it going. One other example I love to use is the bike seat example. So if somebody's working through pain, I'll ask them, okay, it's springtime, you pull the bikes out, you go for a bike ride, you sit on your bike seat. What does your taint feel like for the next 24, 40 hours? It fucking hurts. But what do you do because you learned it as a kid? You ride the bike the next day anyways. And what happens in 3 or 4 days? It doesn't hurt anymore. The area is desensitized. Swollen? Is it injured? No. It just was uncomfortable, but you got through it. That's all it is. And if you can apply that mindset to your injury and be honest with yourself around the swelling and the pain, then you can get through it.
Fair enough. I love the example. It's colorful. That's funny. Coming back to this, you just kind of mentioned how do you know when to push through the discomfort versus pain and identifying what those are. Strength training is obviously the gateway to a healthy and productive functional life. And I know that movement quality plays a significant role in long-term prevention. And I know that you're a stickler for that, same as I. We both are big into
as every trainer should be.
They absolutely should be. And what I think that a lot of people don't realize is that it's absolutely 100% manageable with an online coach. I get probably at least a video daily from a client with a form check.
As a client, you just have to put the effort in.
Absolutely. I'm constantly watching videos of clients and giving them direct feedback on their movement patterns that are specific to them. Plus, I also know my clients and all their injuries. Like, for example, I have a client who's had a labrum repair in his left hip. I can tell immediately in the first rep how the last rep's going to look. It's all completely reasonable online. The other thing that I do is live form checking. I actually really prefer that since I have a long relationship with my clients. As you know, I haven't taken a new client, I think is 1.5 years or 2 years. It's something that I've got a very unique relationship with my clients. And so I have found that over time, especially since most of them I see every other week or every single week, that the form check has become heavily part of my day. I have a client I see her every single Saturday, love her to death. She's going to be a guest on the podcast because she's very interesting. She's an incredible artist and she's gone through the gambit. She's a lot like Sarah Malby, our occasional co-host. The point that I'm making is that movement quality really matters. And it's something we take very seriously because it absolutely plays a role in long-term injury prevention. So let's talk about that real quick. Mobility work, at least in your practice with your clients.
There are preferences for different scenarios. And I say that about all exercise. People, somebody comes on for a free program consultation. What's the best for this? What's the best for this? I'd say it's kind that you're most likely to do. It all fucking works. You just have to do it consistently and repeatedly. That said, there's better options for different scenarios. Personally, I like active stretching the most because I'm doing something. I'm not just holding it. And then I'm also putting the joint through a full range of motion, which is lubricating the joint, which is bringing nutrients to the joint. It's helping it heal. And you're getting an added benefit to the muscle you're stretching as well. So I like active. And I think a lot of folks like active stretching too, because you're getting a little bit of a fitness benefit from it as well. My clients know that I always put up mobility drills or warm up, or I'll call it all sorts of things. And some will skip it. And I'm like, well, there was 6 things for you to do there. And the last time you did it, your heart rate was like 120, 130 for those 10 minutes. Now you're not doing it. And they're like, well, it shouldn't matter. I'm like, no, it does matter, because that's 10 minutes of your heart elevated and you're working on your mobility. So there's a cardio benefit as well. Endorphin release. It feels good. But sometimes, a Sunday night, you get the Sunday blues. You just throw your leg up on the wall and hold a stretch for 30 seconds and look at your phone. Like, that's another great way of doing it. It just is like relaxing. Or self-soft tissue works great too. Again, you just put it on the knot, the contracture, whatever you want to call it, the pain point, and you just melt into it. That's great too. It has a really large acute effect, because you're seeing progress in a short amount of time. So it's really encouraging. But you can't always do active stretching, because sometimes you can't put a joint through the full range of motion because it's injured. What else is in your toolbox?
You can write the best workout program in the world, whatever the paradigm for the workout structure is. And if somebody doesn't do it, then it doesn't matter. It becomes immediately irrelevant. I work off the FIT principle: frequency, intensity, type, time, and enjoyment. The E at the end of FIT is silent. The idea behind it is that if I can get your frequency, the right intensity, the right type of movement, or that joint going through that movement pattern, and you're enjoying it, then I have a winning formula for sustainability. Sometimes I have to change what is scientifically rational to accommodate client preference. Sometimes I just have to acquiesce to a client preference. Otherwise, I know that they're going to start to become, the term I hate, people say this all the fucking time, demotivated. I'm emotionally responding to what's happening right now is what they're basically saying. That's what that means. My goal is to coach my clients without coddling the client. But if they give me a reasonable request, I'm absolutely going to work it into their program.
100%.
As long as it doesn't become an injury risk, I will always try and meet the needs of the client in that regard. I also agree that when it comes to tissue mobility and pliability, any approach is going to be valuable. Autogenic inhibition, which is essentially static stretching, the active dynamic movement, so the joint is actually moving through its ROM or range of motion, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. You could do foam rolling, soft tissue work, percussion therapies. All of it works.
Yoga works, hold
yeah,
the
even
pose
yoga
for a
works.
long time.
Yeah, static stuff. Yeah.
Your body is incredibly malleable if you just do it enough and give it time.
The term that I've used for years is that your body is the most valuable asset that you have, and then people just treat it like shit. I wrote in the 90-Day Habit, one of the chapter beginnings, I believe it was the 30 times 10 rule. I don't remember which chapter it was, but I essentially said everybody wants to have a perfect body and look like a figure competitor, but then they treat it like a used 1972 Buick. It's just terrible how people aren't able to get their ideas, their daydreams about what their body should feel like or look like, and then all the action that requires, and getting those to come together so they can actually get the result. And they don't.
It's so easy to have both.
You could do it. It's not that hard.
It's so easy to have both. Like, you can be working. This is a tangent, but like, you can be working through patellar tendonitis, name it, and any injury. You can still achieve your aesthetic goals while working through an injury for the most part. It's like, try holding a wall sit for 90 seconds with 10-second breaks in between 3 times. That's one set.
Good luck.
Like,
most people can't
check your heart rate. Check your heart rate when you're done. Like, it's fucking high and your quads are burning. I think people don't understand like how easy you can have both.
You've heard me say it a million times. I'm going to say it again. It's going to become a theme. Don't understand why people insist on making fitness and nutrition management hard. They insist on making it almost fucking impossible to manage. It's got to be hard. It's got to hurt. The fitness industry has done a very, very good job of marketing it as gimmicky, right? So, and everyone jumps to these fads and these gimmicks, and they're all trying to one up each other. So they get more and more intense and they get more crazy. So now you have P90X over here, you have Insanity over here, and then they start competing with, well, how much can we make people suffer?
It's like Pepsi and Coca-Cola too. It's like, or the 2 insurance companies like shitting on each other. It's like, okay, like at the end of the day, people that really love Pepsi and Coke are probably gonna hate this, but like, they're not that fucking different. There's just like this method's not good enough. You've tried this a million times. It's not good enough. You've tried this, but it's not working. So you got to try what I'm doing. It's like, no, they did try that, but they just didn't try it long enough. It definitely would have worked. And to your point, is like the industry is so chaotic and messy and finger pointy and inaccurate. And it's just like to to prey on people's feelings that they're not good enough. When in reality, you could close your eyes and just like pick one and be like, okay, I'm going to do this for 3 months. It'll work. It'll work for 3 months. Maybe in time you'll get hurt, but it's going to work for a while. Or yeah, maybe you'll get burnt out, whatever. Anyhow, sorry.
One of the most common questions that I'm asked is if somebody wanted to start today on their fitness, what is one thing they could do to see incredible results right away? And I say, start fucking moving. Go for a walk. You want to see results? Go for a power walk. Do that for 35 minutes. Do that for 3 weeks, and you will see huge changes in your body. Then guess what happens? Your body adapts to it. So you have to make a change. There has to be an algorithmic change. It's a specific adaptation to an imposed demand, the general adaptation syndrome, all that stuff. But then you have to be able to progress off that. But just to get started, all you need to do is, like you said, you could just do this and pick one, and provided you don't get hurt. Now, if you want to get really specific, then you have to get very specific. You have to get granular, but that's a whole nother topic. Let's get into the emotional part of this too, like because that's something that I think that fear, frustration, they hinder motivation when it comes to injury. So let's talk about that a little bit. How do you help your clients work through the fear of re-injury?
Fear of re-injury is tough. Understanding the difference between pain and harm. We've already covered that. It's finding the right progressions, the right micro progressions, and be eternally grateful, over the top, exuberant, excited for progress. Is your injury a little better than yesterday? If the answer is yes, fucking celebrate that. Like, we're making progress. Sometimes again, depends on the person in front of you. Sometimes it'll be like, it's 1% better a day. And like, they're like, oh my God, in 100 days, I'll be better, which is a lie, but it's encouraging, right? It's maybe what they need to hear to be supported and work through pain. Or I'll say in reality, it's like 1% a week sometimes for people. You're like, okay, so you mean in a year I'll be like 50% better. And that can be a tough pill to swallow. The idea though is you are improving a little bit every day, and you need to acknowledge and think about that. I can point it out, but you really need to see it for yourself.
What would you say would be the most critical aspect of a mindset shift that somebody would need to have to rebuild confidence after an injury?
The mindset shift is comparing yourself to the previous day and your abilities that you currently have, and accepting those and coming to terms with previous abilities, and that the two, aren't the same, which can be a hard pill to swallow. But it is the mindset you need to go through. You need to embrace this new path that you're on. While you're doing that, focusing on the things that you can do. But it can be a big identity shift for people. It can be really hard. I personally went from somebody that was moving constantly. Like, you want to play football? Sure. You want to throw a baseball around? Sure. You want to play golf? Sure. You want to play hoop? Sure. You want to play soccer? Sure. You want anything. You name it, I'm down. I can do it. And then you go from like, I don't know if I can hike that far. I don't know if I can walk that far. I definitely can't play basketball. Right now I can't play golf. It sucks. So the mindset shift is, I think it's hard to point to one thing. You need to get over feeling sorry for yourself repeatedly. It's going to happen again. You're going to feel sorry for yourself again. Accept it. Do what you got to do. Get a good night's sleep. Maybe take a step back for the day. Pick up the following day, because you are going to get discouraged. And I think that's another mindset shift, is like, you need to understand that you're going to get discouraged. You're going to be sad. You're going to get depressed, but you need to repeatedly get over it.
A little bit of a challenge when you're working with the nuance of people, because there are situations where people fall behind in what your expectation for their progression doesn't necessarily match their progress. That happens. And then you get people.
Surgeons ruin that for us, by the way. Surgeons fucking ruin expectations.
Let's actually talk about that, because that is very important. You and I have a huge agreement on this. So we're going to come back around to some nuances when people are either falling behind what your expected progress time frame was, or when they're even ahead, but they're still being shitty about it. We'll come back to that. Let's talk about how the medical community, specifically surgeons, have given a completely wrong impression of recovery.
Yeah, it's hard. And it's not always the doctor's fault, and some are much better than others. But again, it makes like PT's jobs hard, makes fitness coaches' jobs hard. Like, some university somewhere has done like they do like a 3 single leg hop for like ACL. It's something along these lines. And they'll do this in the office, and you watch the single leg hop, the surgical side, and it's horrific, but they can do it. The mechanics are all wrong. Their hips jacked up. It looks like shit. I see it. The person doing the jump knows it, but it meets these peer reviewed standard. And you're like, dude, it's like, everybody knows that you're not even close. Like, cue. All your friends approved. Nice. Congratulations. You're now a tenured professor. That's what that study was. It had fucking nothing to do with biomechanics or body mechanics and strength and mobility and all of the shit. Like, use your intuition. You know you're not ready. And so surgeons will do that. And then the easiest one is assigning a time. At 6 months, you'll be able to run. At 8 months, you'll be able to do this. And they're still written like that. My first ACL surgery was 2006. It hasn't fucking changed. Excuse my language, but like I sometimes will still see protocols like at 9 months, at this, blah, blah, blah. And they are getting better, but it should be like, no, once you can do this, then you can do this. Like, can you do a single leg squat unassisted? Check all these box off, then you can go back to play. Have a physical therapist set up the protocol. Don't do it. You're a mechanic. You're really good at it. You're brilliant. You're smart. You're overworked. I don't expect you to also understand rehab, which is like, to your previous point, there's an art to it. Like, you need to understand the person in front of you. Are you going to give them the best stretch for the scenario? No, because they might not do it. You're going to give them the stretch that they're most likely to do. Yeah, that makes our job really hard. When my doctor cleared me to run, oh great, like, oh, that's awesome. Patients. When was the last time you ran? 18 months ago. So you're cleared to run by a physician authority. Like, who am I to say? Like, okay, go for it. But when you do, you're going to get plantar fasciitis and you're going to get shin splints and maybe patellar tendonitis underneath. I don't know, pick a point. Something's going to percolate up. And when that happens, I'm going to say, I told you so. And I'm going to look you in the eye when I say it, because it's going to happen. And it's just like irresponsible on the doctor's part. I think I'm honestly giving too much of a pass. That's a simple concept. That's tissue tolerance. That's all it is. What is your tissue tolerance? Well, if you haven't ran in a really long time and then you go run barefoot on pavement, guess what? Your tissue tolerance is high enough to walk around the house. It's a brilliant business move on their part. Like, they're going to keep walking back in the door with serious injuries, but it's not in the best interest of the patient. It honestly, as you can tell, like, it fires me up. Don't give them a pass. It's such an easy responsibility to pass on to a physical therapist. Like, hey, can you write this protocol for me with certain measures for them to hit? That way I can better clear my client and my patients. It's absolutely insane. And it's insane that's still happening 20 years later, 30, more. It's crazy.
It seems to me that one of the many but large pitfalls of the modern healthcare system, especially in the Western world, America particularly, is that it's not about really preventing disease. It's not even about curing it. It's just about holding off the mortality so that you can cash in on it. But there's a big problem aside from that, which is the lack of individual patient care. Everything is cut and paste. It's all protocol based, and especially these large hospitals
right,
where they have more administrators than they do physicians. And they are so focused on numbered based protocol that they don't consider the individual person and their unique needs. There's a human condition where we want to have an authority give us an expectation. We want to know what happens before it happens. The joke that I've always used, and this is not an offense to anything religious, but it's true. If you walk into church and they got the paper bulletin for that service, and the first thing that I do if I go is I will look and I'll see what's the last song so that I know when I get to get out of there.
Yeah.
I'm already looking ahead. I'm like, okay, so all right, we're on that song. Okay, good. When this is over, then I only have two more songs and then we can leave. And that was when I was a kid, but people want to know what's going to happen before it happens. They want to have expectations. There's now an unreasonable return expectation that people have through instant gratification. We live in a society that is so comfortable beyond anything we could ever, our ancestors couldn't even imagine the level of comfort that we have, that we obtained literally within the last 100 years. Air conditioning is so new. It's unbelievable. Air conditioning wasn't even a common practice and installation in homes till the 1990s. And people forget. People don't even know that indoor plumbing has only been around for 70 years? Where do you think you went, ladies? You didn't have a toilet. Huh? So let's all be a little more fucking grateful about what we have.
True. Yeah.
But people they expect it now. They want it now, and they don't want to do a fucking thing to earn it. It's just give me, give me, give me, give me. I have had clients tell me over the years, one of the hardest things for them to finally accept and then reframe the way that they approach their fitness and nutrition and their mindset, their habits, is understanding that it's going to take more time than they expected. It's very difficult to change behavior. You can do it. You can change your behavior.
Because you just threw a total wrench in their expectations.
Yeah. And people don't like that. You do a lot of free program inquiries. People will call in and ask you about, oh, well, what's your approach? What's this and what's that? And I know that your honesty is the filter that keeps our client base pure. So I know that even though your enrollment percentage when people speak to you is very high, I know that you are the gateway. You're the gatekeeper to having people coming in that we're not the right fit for them because they're expecting a fad, a trick, a gimmick, some kind of nonsense, some bullshit. They're expecting us to just be social media trainers. We are wellness professionals with many, many, many years of experience, hands-on, and quite credentialed.
One phenomenon too that goes along with setting an expectation, like a hard one, like 6 months, 9 months time. There's a phenomenon, and you see it when people first sign up. They think they've already completed the task just by starting. And so they hear, okay, you're going to be back running in a year. Great. They can put themselves back to that position. I'm going to be back running in a year. Amazing. Not that bad, right? And no, you might actually not ever run again if you don't put any work in. I'll say that again. You might not ever run or walk normally again if you don't put work in. It's set the realistic expectations, because to your point, then all of a sudden you find out down the road that it's going to be more like 18 months where you're going to have to do these things. And it pisses them off, and understandably so. Well, what do you mean? This doctor who has 10 more years of education than you do, so I'm just going to be good. Yeah, they're definitely smarter than I am. They definitely have more intellectual horsepower. Good for them. But that doesn't mean they're right in this scenario, because they're not.
Well, degrees don't equate to intelligence, Tate.
No, they don't. And there's definitely different types of intelligence, and social intelligence, whatever. But the point is, you can set realistic and motivating expectations. You'll be running again. And if you do these exercises, these workouts, and meet these goals, you'll be running within the next 9 to 12 months. That is realistic. And some physicians do this. I shouldn't say that. There's incredible practices out there. But your run-of-the-mill, surgeon might not. And it's really unfair to the patient. It's unfair to the care they're going to get down the line from physical therapists and then from us. And it's a bad deal to be handed. And you have to be, I think just being aware of the phenomenon helps you avoid that pitfall.
Well, yes. And that's one of the whole purposes of this podcast and the role of Forge is that we help people understand reasonable expectations based on some scientific rationale and their unique predisposition. Who are they? Where are they at? And what are they willing to do? That's a big deal. I want to make one more comment, and then I want to transition into nutrition for injury recovery and some of that other stuff, because nutrition is something that you and I both love very much, because it is probably
Love and hate.
I love nutrition. I hate the way that the media has warped, perverted it, and the way that it's been stigmatized and turned into dogma. I have a big problem with that. It's all profit centers. But I want to make a comment about reasonable expectation. Human beings, especially I would say Americans, it doesn't matter what it is they're trying to accomplish. They almost always have unreasonable expectations for outcome. So if it's injury recovery, there's usually an unreasonable expectation, mostly. But I would say that is not as potent as a problem that we contend with as people who want to lose, say, 50 pounds. I'll use that as a general marker. When people want to lose body fat, I say lose body fat. Everyone else says lose weight. I'll use it interchangeably here.
I'm starting to say fat these days. Call it what it is, man.
Yeah, right. It's just so difficult because you're trying to re-educate an entire population into saying the right thing is very difficult to do. But I want to make this real quick point that if somebody's wanting to lose 50 pounds of body fat, they have been so overly programmed to assume that can happen in a very small amount of time that is completely unsafe and unreasonable. I'll give you an example of how important this is for people to understand the concept. How long does it typically take somebody to gain 50 pounds? A normal person, there's several studies out there, and you can find this on Google. You can even probably chat GBT this, but essentially, on average, the typical American will gain anywhere between 5 to 8 pounds of body fat just in the holiday season, an additional 8 to 10 pounds of body fat throughout the regular season. So the average person gains anywhere between 10 to 15 pounds, give or take, of body fat per year. And the age groups are classified out, and I don't recall what those are off the top of my head, but let's just say middle age, because I think it was somewhere around the late 30s that this statistic becomes very scary, is you're seeing 10 20, 30, 40, 50. So in about 4 years to 5 years, you could have gone from, I'm just going to use a round number. Let's say you're a 150 pound person to a 200 pound person within 4 to 5 years. And that's a typical trajectory of an American. That is scary as fuck because of all the health consequences that come with it. But here's the other thing. When somebody decides all of a sudden 50 pounds is just too much, 49, no problem. Body positivity, healthy at every size. But the moment they hit that, there's a certain number, and I'm just going to use 50 as the example because it's easy to work with. They hit that number and all of a sudden that's unacceptable to them. The other 49 fucking pounds was fine, but that 150 pounds, now all of a sudden they're committed. So they go and they do all their research. They're trying to, first of all, they're trying to find the thing that's the cheapest and the fastest. That's the thing that they're looking for, both of which are completely wrong, by the way. Now, how long do you think that the average person assumes that it takes to lose 50 pounds when, let's say, on average, it took 4 to 5 years to gain it?
They think it takes 2 to 3 months to lose
60 to 90 days. You're exactly right. 60 to 90. And
it's possible. It's not going to be fun.
It's possible, but you and I both agree that's not safe. There are significant consequences with losing that much body fat in that time frame. But also, I want to use the word delusional. That is delusion. To think that what took you a half a decade to accumulate, that you can just snap your fingers and all of a sudden you are a figure competitor, that you look like frickin' Chris Hemsworth in Thor, Love and Thunder when Zeus snapped his fingers and his clothes ran off, or you think that you look like Kate Beckinsale at any given time in her life because she's absolutely stunning, right? Not going to happen, folks. Not going to happen. So anyway, I wanted to just make that final point. Now let's transition into some nutrition because I want to take some time to do that because it's really important. Let's talk about the process of recovery in injury, not the biomechanical process. Let's talk about nutrition's role in recovery. I also want to talk about some things that you would recommend. And then I want to talk about sleep. So give us your nutritional philosophy. Share the iceberg tip of yours.
The iceberg tip of mine is do the big things first. Everybody knows there's a couple of things that they could change that would make a massive or a small impact. They're aware. This could be booze. It could be a nighttime. A real example, I eat a handful of milk chocolate chips before bed every night. That's a real example. And if he listens to this, he does not do that anymore. I don't think. I love him. But so I like to get people aware of what these are and basically try to get them to say them out loud. And I'll have them do it in a couple different ways. You could take photos of your food. You could journal. I like the journaling approach. Journal. Submit your journal entry. You don't see it again. We meet in our coaching session. I pull it up. Now these are your words. You're tracking it. None of it's me. Okay. Here's our options. Pick. And then it just falls 100% on that person to change those things. And then from there, I'll get a little more granular about like total energy intake, macros, things like that. But you can just make such a big impact. That's iceberg tip 1. Iceberg tip 2 is processed foods. It's not just some things people are saying. It's not like, look at our reviews. It's not. It affects your hunger hormones. You had a great guest on about, I think the psychology of addiction, natural flavors. It's a combination of, I think, 500 different ingredients according to the FDA. Natural flavors, which aren't as bad as artificial flavors. And they're not natural. They're addictive. Food science is a industry because your job is to make food addictive. And if you can't control your addictive pattern, you're not going to hold a good body fat percentage, have good general body composition. So I just like to do those two things first. It's super easy. And you can eat the same food just with different ingredients. And you can get so far with just those two little changes. You made this point a million times. People like to make it hard. They can't believe how easy it is. Well, how many calories am I having? Whatever should my macro splits be? Blah, blah, blah. Fuck off with your fucking calories and macro splits. When you're drinking, 3 nights a week, or you're having pizza 5 minutes before bed. There's a zillion quirky things people do and don't share. And to be frank with you, I can struggle with clients that don't share. And sometimes I don't do well with clients that are a little maybe, we'll say, more OCD. They want all these details. That can be a little bit, sometimes can clash. But that's my iceberg approach. Yeah. Processed foods, change your behavior that you're already aware of.
This is the basis of habit stacking, which is the process that all of the coaches at Forge use. I write about it, and of course, in the 90-Day Habit Transformation book. Habit stacking is so important, and you are right. Looking at the low-hanging fruit first and getting that under control right away is where you get huge return quite quickly. Then looking at right. So it's about, Sammy and I were talking about this, and her and I talk about habit stacking when it comes to nutrition. We discussed fast food. If you're going out for fast food twice a day or once a day in a week, so you're getting anywhere between 14 to 7 or 5 fast food feedings, just cut that. That's your first step in nutrition. Just that. Don't worry yet about your caloric intake or your caloric undulation needs based on active and non-active days. Don't worry about your macronutrition, and don't worry about carb cutting or carb cycling or intermittent fasting. Get the fuck out of here with all that nonsense.
Yeah.
It is not useful yet. That comes later, but this is a point, Tate, that people push, they push and they push and they push because they don't want to drink from a garden hose. They try to drink from a fire hose and it just blows their head off. And it's not helpful. It's not useful to try and just absorb all of this so much you choke on it. You choke on all the details. You fix the easy things first. It is eliminating a bad habit in your food and then removing processed foods, including added sugars. Those two things are I think I had heard you say hydration, water. Those are the three things. The three things. Just do those three things.
Yeah. For a lot of people, when we do have people that, want to train for events and have a certain aesthetic or be, have higher goals. But some people, they're married in their 50s, got 3 kids. They get down to 15% body fat. They're happy. This is sustainable. And now you're not counting calories or macros. Turns out you just needed to drink 1 night a week instead of 3.
Just as a reiteration for those who are watching or listening.
That easy.
For those who are watching or listening that are struggling with their nutrition or think that it's supposed to be super hard, it isn't. I'm going to remind you, there's 3 things to do today, right now. Don't wait till Monday. Just do it right now. Like literally once you are done listening to this or watching it, stop one of your very obvious bad behaviors. It could be midnight stacking. It could be eating the wrong kinds of foods. Like, for example, having ice cream before bed isn't going to help your insulin levels at all when you're in a fasted state. Stop doing one of those bad behaviors, whether it be fast food or whatever it is. Stop. The second thing is stop eating processed foods or high sugar foods. And the third is start hydrating. Drink at least 120 ounces or more of water per day. Do those 3 things. Then we can start looking at, well, how many calories a day do you need based on your activity level? What should the macro ratio be if you're working towards a specific sport? If you're an endurance runner, then you have a very different need than you would as if you're a power lifter. Eat to your needs. That's where a coach can step in, and that's where we can really help you. Anyway, those are really, I think, really important.
We need to talk how it relates to injury.
What was that?
I said we still need to talk about how it relates to injuries because we totally went on it.
That's okay. The tangents are fine. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about nutrition as it relates to injury recovery. What are the things that you would recommend for the average person?
Water's one. Cartilage loves water. And your inflammatory foods, alcohol causes a lot of inflammation process. It's the same, I'm like, oh, we didn't cover it. We did cover it. It's the same things. It's literally the same things. If you wanted to add more to it, bump up your protein and then the glucosamine glycan. The supplements I don't think work, but you can try it. And sometimes they do work and they work really well for people. Bone broth is like the non-processed version of glucosamine pills. That's worked really well for me. And if you could put the effort in to make it yourself and get your bone broth like super jiggly, and a lot of gelatin in there, your joints love that. And that's really it. It's all the same things. It's the same things. If you're trying to cure diabetes, if you're eating a ton of sugar, your joints are going to hurt. They're going to hurt. Blood sugar is what it says it is. This is a gross analogy, but if my blood sugar is high and yours not, and I cut and I bleed, my blood's going to be sweet and yours not. It's like, think of what it is. It is blood sugar. Literally, that's what it is. Okay, that's circulating through your body. You have glucose in your blood. Your blood has high sugar. It is sticky. Is that good? No. It's good for your joints. No. You can go down the rabbit hole of anti-inflammatory foods. All that stuff helps. But by and large, it's the same exact nutritional guidance that you give for somebody that's just trying to lose body fat.
Isn't it fascinating how people listening to this or watching would probably say, wow, that seems so underwhelming. Like, why isn't there some magic pill or some crazy protocol about fitness and nutritional and all these foods that you have to eat and you have to eat them at this time? No, that's social media lies. Addiction is a real problem. It's an epidemic in America. In fact, the episode with Dr. Rob Kelly, the world's foremost expert on addiction, and guess what he said? He said exactly what we just said. You hydrate, you cut all the processed foods and the sugars, you eat healthily and heartily towards your need, and that's it. It's not any harder than that. What's hard is changing the behavior associated to it, because there's always some kind of a problem. Like you said, your upbringing, and it's not even so much about childhood trauma in every case, which is usually the catalyst for addiction. That's true. It's something else as well. When you were raised on processed foods, like for example, I was born in the 70s and raised in the 80s. The TV dinner was a thing at the time, right? So when I left my house and I became an adult and I went out and I said, oh, I need to go grocery shopping. And I just gotten into the fitness industry since, that was a long time ago. And I was not yet in the whole nutrition aspect of it. I was just getting into the certified personal trainer realm. This is like 2000, 2001. And when I finally had got my own apartment, my wife and I, we essentially ate like we were raised. We had frozen pizzas in the freezer. We had the Hungry Man dinners and we had Hot Pockets. All of this trash that if you were to present to me today, I'd probably gag. My body isn't even capable of consuming it anymore. I've abstained from fast food for over 15 years. The last time I had fast food, I can tell you, we were on our way to Yosemite National Park. This is about 10 years ago, and we were starving balls. We're about to go and hike Half Dome. So I thought, hey, when's the last time you had a sausage McMuffin with egg, right? Why not? So we pulled into a McDonald's, which I hadn't been into in probably a half a decade at the time. We got a sausage McMuffin with egg, and my body rejected it heartily. It said, this is not food. Because I had not been consuming those kinds of foods for so long that my body did not understand what the hell I was doing to it. And I actually felt miserable for about a couple of hours. I didn't have any digestive issues, just I felt miserable, like as if I had eaten more salt and sugar than any human being ever had in their lifespan. I just felt terrible.
Well, that makes sense. It takes like 48 hours to even start to digest that.
Yeah. And then that night we had a pretty good meal, but
yeah. And for people watching, you're not just saying that. Like my clients, I just so many times I wish my friends, I wish my family, I wish I could share my calls with other clients. They say the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like, dude, I did not realize how bad I was feeling
every time.
And I hear it so much. Like I figured why not? It's been a couple of weeks. I grabbed whatever my favorite Chick-fil-A. Dude, he's like, they're like, I had a headache. Like I felt terrible. I couldn't believe it.
It's every single time.
Yeah. And you're like, wow, I wish I had a recording device and I could just share that with everybody. But and circling back to the industry and the marketing and the social media, everybody just thinks it's something you're saying. They don't actually believe it. You actually have to experience it for yourself to actually think it's true.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. In a world where anecdotes are used to sell and people buy, when it comes to certain things that are outside of their programming, their YouTube or TikTok or their Instagram or their Twitter education, it's very difficult for people to know. I guess obstinacy is very difficult to overcome when it comes to these kinds of things. All right, man. Well, let's finish up. I got a couple quick questions for you here. Just for fun. These are just kind of fun questions. You and I have worked with some incredible injuries over the years, including amputations and crush victims. We've done all kinds of crazy post-rehabilitation, and between the two of us, we have some pretty incredible stories. But do you have one that just sticks out in your head where you're like, damn, this is one hell of an injury to get over?
Yeah, I can think of one person. I think of a person that had a history of Achilles tendon repair, plantar fasciitis in both feet, low back pain, and then a really unique, I don't even want to say injury. Well, it was a knee infection. So they didn't have likely the articular cartilage that they should have. I don't think it would have took 2 years, maybe. Not being able to stand for extended periods of time, not being able to walk, no running. This person probably will listen to this. There to say, I think it was definitely affecting their mental health. In 2 years, could stand for extended periods of time, going for runs, playing basketball, playing volleyball at the beach. All of those things came back, and none of them existed before we started. They might have existed, but they weren't happening very often, and they weren't happening without a lot of pain and without a lot of apprehension. So I think that combination was pretty rough to get over. That's the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, it sounds like a kinetic chain of chronic problems that were really impeding the quality of life, but they were able to overcome that.
Yep. Took a lot of work, and they credit to them. They did the work. There's a lot of monotony in some of the things that you need to do to get over those, or it's tedious, or, people say some of the exercises aren't as energetic or ballistic that other ones could be, but paid off.
Yeah.
Paid off. I would say another guy that did he did like a half marathon on like a 13,000 foot mountain Achilles repair, and then within a year we're doing that. Yeah, that was it.
I've worked with some people that had some pretty significant injuries, and it's a mental game as well as a physical game for these people. It's very, very, very difficult to get out of the depths of despair. Like you said, there's going to be those stages of grief, and those are reasonable. You just got to try and accelerate them and get your mind wrapped around what's necessary to recover by making sure that you're attacking this with an expectation that's reasonable, being consistent in the application of the therapies required to recover, making sure that you are feeding your body appropriately, and to never give up. If you do those things.
Yeah. That's another pitfall that I did not mention earlier is how you get a message. Hey, I hurt my shoulder, blah, blah, blah. Can't do my workout today. Look out what the workout is. It's leg day. Okay, maybe, I don't know, maybe there's like a barbell back squat in there or something that involves some upper body stuff, but always do what you can, always, because not every exercise is going to cause injury. And, if you don't get a hold of your coach, sure, but you have a pain alarm system in place. You don't need to check in with me. You go try it. You're going to know right away. It's not like you're going to go oh, my knee hurts, and then go throw 300 pounds on the bar and be like, yep, I can't do it. It's like, okay, go try, see what happens. That's a huge pitfall.
It's the fear, and then there's also the laziness factor.
And other times they're just being a fucking bitch.
Yeah, sometimes they're just being lazy, and that can be really difficult. I would ask this though, to summarize, what is the final thought that you would have? What would you say to somebody who's just starting their comeback to give them that push? And
pain and harm aren't the same. Sometimes they're like a horrible relationship. Sometimes they're together and other times they're apart, but the two do not always coexist. I understand the fear. I will say this. I had my right knee surgery. I think I had 5 surgeries, at least 5 that I can think of. I understand more. Most times I understand more than my clients what they're going through by a long shot. Oh my God, I had this. I'm like, cool, I've done that 3 times. I understand the fear. I understand the trauma. I understand the identity shift. I understand the nuance between pain and harm. I've done it. I get it. And it's not easy. It's hard. But you can get through it. You can get through it. And it's worth it every time. And the best thing you can do is not let it happen in the first place.
Right. Build strength around those joints, encapsulate them, protect them, be smart about your movements. I'll make one final comment and then we'll close it out. But it is that while it is not necessary for your coach, your physical therapist, your physician, anybody to have experienced the exact same injury as you, it is always kind of a boon when your coach, like Mr. Tate O'Dell here, has probably experienced your injury personally. He's got a very unique perspective on recovery. Guess what? He still works out. He's still mobile. He's got a lot of things going on in life. He's got a lot of clients that depend on him, but he still manages to take care of his body. He keeps the right mindset around it. And that is something that I think we can all remember as a inspiration, that injury doesn't mean that you're done. It just means you have to change what you're doing.
Yep.
So
100%.
All right, my man. But in the meantime, I want everybody listening or watching to know that if you want to work with Coach Tate, he's accepting clients. He's got some spaces available, and you can go to forgept.com, go to meet the coaches. You can see a lot more about him. We believe in holistics here at Forge. We believe the whole person matters. You are an individual. You have very specific needs, and that is what we do. We're not AI. We're not a templated trainer system. We're not a gym trainer. Everybody here is highly educated, very well experienced, and that's what you get from us, is that personalized attention. Anyway, without any further ado, we thank everybody watching and listening. Coach Tate, awesome to see you, and I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Sounds good.